Rinpoche's instructed me to present meditation a little bit differently than the way I think it's generally presented in America. It's, I think, so if people here have not been sitting and don't have like a normal sitting practice, Rinpoche suggests that we start by only reflecting on the impermanent nature of life. And the reason is that we do that is because if we don't understand that life is impermanent, who wants to meditate? It's like, right? I mean, if you don't realize that everything that you have right now is going to disappear and that you're going to lose everything in a single moment, you know, and the rest of your life is going to go that way. I mean, it's not just like at some point I'm going to lose everything. Our entire life is the experience of losing everything all the time, because that's how life is. So meditation is something that we want to do because once we accept this truth, it's really emotionally hard to cope with. You know, contemplative practice helps us because when we really understand what we're up against, it's, you know, we just don't have the resources to deal with that. So that's the way that Rinpoche said that we should start meditating is, you know, you can do it mainly if you're sitting. Even though a lot of people teach the 7-point posture, I've always been taught that the most important thing is the straight spine, because some people can't sit on the floor, and it's fine if you can't sit on the floor. So especially the straight spine and the shoulders being back are things that you can do even if you're sitting on a chair. Mainly if your spine isn't straight, then the way that your breath moves, your breath will get caught. And breathing is such an important part of practice. You'll find that when you're practicing, as your breath gets more elongated and relaxed, that the number of thoughts and emotions you have will slow down. Because actually the breath and the thoughts are completely tied together. So, for example, when you're upset, if you're angry or emotionally agitated and your breathing rate increases, then it's almost like the number of conceptual thoughts that you have just piles up on that. So, you know, definitely having the straight spine so that your breath is moving. You're probably, if you haven't been practicing yoga or meditation, not able to really breathe abdominally in the beginning. But certainly noticing how far down your breath goes is very important. Because if your breath is coming all the way down into your belly, your breath is longer, right? Your breathing rate is going down, and that will calm your mind down naturally. Even if you don't know anything else about meditation, if you were to be able to sit with your spine straight and elongate your breathing, it would naturally begin to calm your mind down. But you'll notice on different days, you'll notice, you know, your breathing rate is different. And you don't need to be really forceful with your breathing rate, but you just start to notice, and if you just put some attention on trying to elongate it, it will start to relax. In Vajrayana Buddhism, we meditate with our eyes open. Sometimes it's taught like sort of half open. It's up to you. And some people are really uncomfortable with their eyes open, and so Rinpoche will tell you to sometimes close your eyes and sometimes open them, and then you can sort of get used to it. People find it distracting, but Rinpoche says, if you're training in bodhicitta, you're trying to connect with everything, so why would you shut your eyes as though you're withdrawing? And that's just the same habit that we have. But actually, there's a lot of reasons to have the eyes open that don't have anything to do with that, but we do meditate with our eyes open. And the jaw is relaxed. Having the jaw relaxed, you'll notice, has also another connection with your conceptual mind slowing down, and touching the top of the tongue to the root of the teeth. So those are things that you can do even if you can't sit on the floor. You can do all those things. And your hands, can really be however's comfortable. You can have them here, you can have them here. However's comfortable is fine. So if you were just reflecting on impermanence, you could kind of do, some, conceptual thinking about impermanence. You could actually think about things changing, however that you wanted to do that. And then you could notice the breath for a while, or you could use your breath. We don't count the breath or do anything like that in Vajrayana Buddhism, but you could notice the breath as impermanence is another way that you could do it. You could just notice the changes happening in your body or with your respiratory rate. The main thing is that as soon as you notice that you're conceptually thinking, you don't want to do anything with that. You just want to come back to your breath. You don't want to label it. You don't want to reject it. You don't want to think anything particular about it. You just want to come back to your breath. So this habit we have of pursuing misery is the habit of pursuing our thoughts, right? So we have, like when you're sitting down to meditate, like nothing's happening and suddenly you're angry. And you're angry because you had a thought. So like something happened in your body. You had a sensation in your body. You identified with it. It caused a conceptual thought to arise as anger, and then you chased it. And then as soon as we start pursuing those thoughts, then we make up more and more stories. So we just get really, the emotional struggle starts. So the idea is if you just leave that where it is and come back to your breath, you just drop the emotional struggle where it is. And so you're in a very gentle way, training yourself not to get into that emotional struggle. And lojong is a more like engaged way of not getting involved in that emotional struggle, right? So you're off the cushion. And you're also not getting involved in that emotional struggle, but you're doing it in a more forceful way with your mind. You're using a technique, or you're training in bodhicitta, you're doing something more active. So here you're doing the same thing, but you're mostly you're noticing the breath. You're definitely noticing that the breath is related to conceptual thoughts. I think that is a really key thing, because the working with the breath is one of the keys to meditation in every tradition, in every Buddhist tradition, but especially in Secret Mantrayana. If you are a master of working at the breath, all of the great masters were masters of the breath. They mastered the 5 elements. They mastered the breath, and it's part of their realization. So, in just a very basic way, we just have to start noticing that. I think over time, working on bringing the breath lower is very important. And we can do it. Well, we probably notice right now, a lot of us are probably breathing up here. And especially when you're upset, you probably notice your breath getting stuck here. So even if you're getting upset and you notice your breath getting stuck, if you can start to elongate it a little bit, it starts to open up a little bit. So all these, anger, desire, all these strong emotions, you're going to notice that they're really connected to the way you're breathing. And if you're doing your sitting practice and a strong emotion comes up, notice how your breathing changes, and notice where you feel sensations in your body. A lot of it's up here. Everything is getting caught up here. And when you're relaxed, you can really feel that open up.